Hi and welcome back. This has been certainly quite an interesting week. So finally, everything that I've been planning for most of last month, all the bits that I've more or less ordered have finally come through. There are some very small bits to do with the outdoor webcam installation part that would be arriving sometime this week. So my initial plan with the FreeNAS build was to house it in a 24U rack enclosure with the proper 3U case, a server grade case basically with hot swappable bays. I was thinking of one with say 16 3.5 inch drives. And I placed the order with BNS USA for the iStar EX3M16 as I recall. And unfortunately iStar USA couldn't fulfill the order because they are basically revamping that line, that model essentially. So I didn't want to risk placing another order because all the refunds had to come back. Somewhere to the order of about $2,000 with the refunds had to come back. Place another order and then essentially go for something else, because basically you need to do your homework for the case you're purchasing. You have to match the power supply, so it'll be a 2U power supply again by iStar USA in this case. You could go for another vendor, but I want to keep it with the same vendor. And certain power supplies are compatible with that case, and so it got messy. And then of course you need to have an HBA, which is called a host bus adapter card, and with the HBA you need to get 4 SFF, a particular SFF type SAS, mini SAS cable connector. So basically you have this special cable that goes from the PCIe HBA card to the backplane of the enclosure essentially. And that would have been perfect, but that's not how things panned out essentially. So I changed my mind and decided, because at that point I had already, as I recall, I had already transferred the internals from my Corsair ER740 case into this new 570X RGB crystal series. This is one of the tempered glass. So I basically took the Skylake 6700K setup and transferred all the internals over into this one. So that left the ER740 empty, and it was at that time that I was thinking, oh, should I put the server into this or go for the rack mount setup. The advantage with the rack mount setup is if a drive fails, it's easier to identify the drive. It's a case of pulling one out, buying a new one and chucking it in, and that's probably going to take you as maximum 3 to 5 minutes. Now the approach I've taken in the end essentially was to try and repurpose the ER740, which is a desktop grade case, more designed by Corsair for the enthusiasts in terms of the gaming, water cooling type person essentially. So it wasn't designed at all to hold 8 hard drives. The one good thing about the motherboard that I picked, and you can click over here for a link to the parts I chose for the FreeNAS build. That motherboard essentially can run, I think, 10 SATA drives at 6 gigabits per second, which is pretty incredible. But instead I'm only running 8. And there's another small caveat: I'm not running a boot SSD. I'm basically booting FreeNAS off 2 USB 3.1 USB flash drives, so basically thumb drives. I came about a small trick on how to set it up basically. So that's also internalized into the case. There's no USB sticking out of the case. I will show you how I did that. And just to check, how am I for time? Right, that's pretty good. And so long story short, I was able to do the install in the what do you call it? Yeah, 740 case essentially. And it turned out quite well. Let me just bear with me. I'm just going to log in here. So I just want to see if you can see everything up on the screen. So I'm just going to zoom in on the screen. So give me one moment. So I'm just going to pull up my Instagram. So it's easier for me to show the Instagram and kind of give you a step by step of my process and how things turned out. So just to give you a quick idea, so this is how things were. So I'm going to basically pan you guys over onto the monitor. Right, let's see if you can see that. So this is basically the setup I had at the time of the build. So you can see I basically started taking out the guts from the 740, and I started transferring those guts in here. The sun comes from this window at the back of this room, and the fan blades are transparent, so it's pretty cool how the fan blades lit up just from the sunlight. And you can see here I'd already moved the motherboard across, and this is the Skylake chip. And then let's just go up here, and this is once I got everything transferred across and did the build. One challenge with this build was I have the H115, which is a 280mm rad, whereas this case is pretty much designed for the 240, because what you do is you put a 240 rad over here, and you keep the 3 RGB fans down over here. So I basically moved them across here just to fit this here. So from the front of the case there's no RGB. Yeah, it's not a big thing. It doesn't look that great though. But it's a pretty clean install. And then I switched over to doing the Xeon build. So this is the Xeon E5 2620V4, the cheapest Xeon. This is an 8-core 2.1 GHz chip, which boosts up to I think about 3 GHz. And this is once I finish the build. So it is at this point that things started to go wrong with the plan really for the server build, because this is just me testing the components. Normally I would test the components outside, but I was confident enough that it's going to work that I just started fitting stuff inside the case. So I just wanted to do a post test to make sure everything was booting up, and to get to the UEFI and just check the thermals on this Corsair 212 Evo CPU cooler. And then my order of 8 WD red drives came from DNH USA. So these are the 8 drives, and I got a black drive to throw on some backups. And so then I had this idea okay, I want to be able to stack my drives. I can order something online, maybe some eBay. It'll take ages to get here. So I really wasn't entirely sure how I'm going to fit the 8 drives inside the case. So I thought, okay, I'm going to design something and 3D print it. And so this is what I designed. Basically a rail system and a spacer. Very simple, right? That was the very first design. Let me just pull something up in a sec. So I just want to show you how I iterated my design essentially. So if I were to go so I can show you what it was like once. So basically it was like 2 in the morning. The same day, by around 4 p.m. I had the very first prototype of the piece that you see right there. So here we go, this should be interesting. So I'm just going to show you my Facebook page. So this is basically the design that I came up at 2 in the morning. very crude in a sense, very simple and crude in that sense. And by the time I had sent that for prototyping, I'd already come up with another version where I had added ventilation and filleting for the grooves. And by that, so within that 4 hours, I'd already had the rail, just like 3 or 4 pieces of the rails come in, and I was able to fine tune the design, and then send the final order. So that's the one you're looking there. And then the next thing I did was I was able to mount 3 drives and just kind of see what the spacing was like. And one thing I noticed in this configuration was that it wasn't very stable. So then I decided, okay, fine, how can I make this a bit more stronger? I thought I'd put a base plate. And so that was my design for the base plate. And so that has worked out really well, surprisingly well actually. So if I were to click over here, this is the 4-drive system on the base plate. So I can slide the base plate forward, back, whichever way I want. And they stay relatively stable on it. And then I realized, okay, I could order another base plate, but it costs about $50 something to get a base plate made. It doesn't take long, about 2 days. But I said, because I had lots more of these parts remaining, and given the clearance issue around here, because I need to make sure none of the drives are touching any of the front panel connectors or the jumpers at the back, and then there's a case fan here, which is nice because the airflow is pretty good that way. I decided to mount them upwards, well, vertically. And so here it's just the spacer combo on either side. And what's happening, these drives are all pretty cool. They're all around 35, 37 degree Celsius mark, and these are in the 40s. So it's comparable to the temps of the drives I'm seeing in my NAS. I'm just checking what the time is like. And so that's basically how it is with progress on the server. And what was nice was that, well, after that I flashed the FreeNAS installer onto a USB, and getting it up and running was pretty straightforward from that point onwards. And what's that? Anything interesting there? No. And so I'm just going to zoom out, right? And since then the server's been up. I've been able to configure it, and there was at least 20 terabytes of accessible space. I was able to enable virtualization as well, which is pretty interesting because I've got a really powerful over-the-top CPU in this rig. That it would be nice if I could make use of it essentially. So what I've done instead is use the virtualization tech, the VM, and run an Ubuntu VM using 8 gigs of the 32 gigs ECC RAM. And I only dedicated, I believe, 2 cores to Ubuntu at the moment. But it's pretty cool because I can shut the VM down, add 2 more cores, and boot it back up if I want. So I would be able to run Docker instances within that VM. So it's pretty sweet so far. I haven't had much time to play with the VM, which is that it's booting. I can connect over VNC. Actually, I can even just demo what that's like. So if I were to pull up the VNC client, so this is the VM, the Ubuntu desktop. So I haven't really played much with it through the VM. Sorry, in the VM side, because I'm a SSH addict essentially. And so this is the virtualized Ubuntu instance essentially right there. So let me just zoom in again. There we go. And I'm also going to tweak the ISO just a tad. Right, there we go. So on the left side is the VM, the virtualized Ubuntu, and so you can see it's got 2 cores, and it's got, well, actually, sorry, I only set 4 gigs of RAM, not 8. I will, on the next boot, I'll set it to 8. You can see the background. I've got an rsync job going. It's been going on the whole day essentially. And so this is on the right hand side. That is the Skylake server, or the Skylake box essentially. So that's running a couple things at the moment. But I'm planning to just pull out that SSD and install it on another build, which I'm going to start on. So that sounds crazy, right? But yeah, that's the plan at least. And so I will explain a bit about that in a bit. So this is my FreeNAS system. So if I go over here, you can see how it's showing the Xeon CPU, and I can go to storage to show you the VDEV that I made using all the drives, and so you can see all the data sets I've created. This is a ZVol, which is special for the VM. So that's slightly different, but the rest are regular data sets. And I can click on view disks, so you can see all the disks, and they're all pretty healthy. And that's the VM. It's running the Ubuntu VM. And so this is very. I'm just giving you like a very quick 2-second overview of FreeNAS. But that's basically this is setup I've got going. So that was just a very quick look at the FreeNAS server that's running right now. And I think I'm going to go vlog style from this point onwards to show you the FreeNAS server. So I think I will need my phone to act as a torch, and then I will show you some of the Unify stuff I'm playing with. Actually, I can pull one of those things right here. I'm just going to try and pull it from the side without upsetting too many things, hopefully. Here we go. So I said I'm building another box, right? So that's going to be the 24/7 what I would call an NVR, basically video recorder, and it's going to be the surveillance box with WD purple drives in mirrored RAID. And I've got 2 of these Ubiquiti Bullet G3 webcams with PoE cams. Essentially, these are 1080p, and so these are going to be set up at the outer perimeter of the site. So I'm just going to put that back, and then I'm also going to run on PoE, UAP AC light Wi-Fi spots downstairs essentially, and so that's so these are all going to be running off a Unify cloud controller, and I'm already running the Unify cloud controller. So it's basically, it's interesting. They call it a cloud controller or a cloud key, which is like a device, like a USB stick that you pay for, and you just stick it into your on-premise setup. But the cloud controller is basically a piece of software. So the Skylake server is running that at the moment, and the video server software is also one that you can basically download and install yourself and run on a server. So the plan is to set up this new box, just transplant the SSD from the Skylake box, and then, given how similar the components are, both have essentially an Asus motherboard. Both platforms are Intel. The difference is this is going to be running a Pentium G4 600, which is a dual core Pentium with hyperthreading. For $80, it's said to be like almost an i3 basically. So that's pretty beefy in itself, and it's a pretty budget CPU, because I don't want the box to be doing anything serious beyond that. So it'll just be doing the video cams will be recording, and the cloud core control stuff will be running on this, and whatever other Docker containers I have running will be running on that. But I will kill the Twitch streaming on that SSD. I'll probably just clone the SSD, I will see. Because if I do any Twitch streaming, I will run it through the Skylake box, because it just has so much more horsepower, right? So it seems like, so basically I've taken on 3 projects at the same time. So one of the NAS box, setting up the surveillance setup, transplanting my Skylake rig, and then this Ubiquiti stuff, right? I don't have any infrastructure for PoE. I do have an edge router, I do have a tough switch, which does PoE, and my house is such that I inherited it from my dad, and it's a pretty old structure, so and the walls are super thick. It's double bricked, so we have a lot of trouble with Wi-Fi here, and as you can imagine, there's no cabling or Ethernet routed or TV routed to any room in the house. So and we can't basically drill and stick wires into the wall. Essentially, it's just not going to work. So instead, I'm routing Ethernet inside casing, essentially, and that's for the indoor. And then for the outdoor, I need to run outdoor grade Ethernet, and ensure there's ESD protection on both ends, because we do have severe thunderstorms. So I don't want that to be like thunderstrike. When thunder and lightning occurs, any wires that are nearby will induce a voltage. It's not that the lightning has to strike the wire itself, because they essentially start to act like antennas, and therefore you need to have your ESD protection organized. Right, so this video is going to die in a couple sets, so I'm just going to hurry this up. Ooh, okay. So I had to take care of that. So long story short, the third project is essentially wiring everything with the cabling, and getting all that sorted. So here's a quick close-up of the FreeNAS box, and it's running right now. Unfortunately, the status code LED. Let me try and get a bit closer. You can see there's like a red reflection. It's being hidden by the drives, and this motherboard is such that it only shows any LEDs during the post sequence. But when it's running right now, it's hard to say that it's running, apart from that red glow down there, and of course the power LED on that side. But it's not as obvious. It's a little bit worrisome at times to say, hey, is it working or not? And then, so these are the HDDs. I'm using my phone as a torch source. So FreeNAS is booting off these 2 Kingston USBs essentially. And so this blue wire hooks up into, I'm trying to get a bit more light, into one of the USB 3.1 headers, and there's a black one above that, which is the front panel USB 3.1 connectors, and then you can see how on this side, let me get a bit more light, there you go, all the 8 SATA cables hooking into the SATA ports. And I threw in an EVGA GTX 1050 as a cheap graphics card solution, because this Xeon does not have onboard video. So that's how I can access the UE5 BIOS and all that stuff. So this is so you can see the two first plates from my prototyping run, and these are the newer plates with the ventilation. So these vertical drives have ventilation on both sides, and so this fan down here runs the cool air in there right through. So that's turned out quite well. So I'm going to basically close the door on this now without upsetting it, hopefully. Put my phone, keep my phone so you can light it through the grill kind of thing. There we go. So that's that case. And so this is so just to give a quick look, this is the the X99 6850K gaming rig, or it's more productive box with the 1080. I've got wires everywhere. Excuse the mess. That's just wiring all over because I've been pulling things out of the network. That's a switch that's been moved around about 100 times, and you just get a sense of the disruption inside this room. So let's move to that side of the room. So you can just see how much. So this is this is the janky build area. So I will move this monitor away when I'm building the next box, so you can see the switch is alive, and those are the older NASs. So let's pan across. Oh yeah, just to give you a quick look, these are the Unify UAP units, and I also ordered multiple SSDs which I may or may not use. Ooh, let's see what we have here. This is my Speedmaster. It does work, but is it running? Oh, it is running. So the second hand is turning. And that's my toaster. So that's a black WD drive. That's a 1 terabyte SSD, which I need to decide which box it's going to go into. And then moving over here, another messy area, unfortunately. Tools, etc. The tempered glass beauty. Look at that. Just look at that. I'm just going to give you a glowy shot. Wow. That's pretty cool, right? And onto the new box. So this is the box that's going to be the new rig. It's a Corsair 270R case, a $70 case, which I actually was able to purchase locally, which is rather impressive. I fitted HX 750i PSU, and these are the purple drives. So two 4TB purple drives. And so the Asus board is still inside a box. I will grab that and install that soon. So I'm just going to leave you with a bit more glowing fun as I end this video. So thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. Let me know what you think. And yeah, look forward to an update once I get all this up and running. Let me know if you want to see the video, the network as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.